Good morning. I'm just sitting here doing my own little thing and not paying any attention. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I started a new Instagram account, A.LawfulTruth underscore LLC. It's not allowing me to broadcast live yet from that account. So I have to just post a little bit more to get there. Once I am able to broadcast live from there, then I will. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, SDWB. Allergies again. I am, as I said this morning, good morning, Marguerite. Good morning, Bobby. I am literally growing this business a bit by bit. And so I started a new Instagram account just for these live broadcasts, and it won't allow me to do it yet. So I have to post some more on that account before I'm able to do live broadcasts. But once we get there, I'll let you know. Excuse me. This morning we have two guests, one at 6:40 and one at 7 a.m. It's getting like that now. People are wanting to get on the air and have conversations with me. And so I'm trying to, good morning, Fee. I'm trying to navigate the best way I know how with the time limit that I have. And I literally am just on for an hour trying to figure out, uh, you know, if I want to go a little bit longer, etc. And sometimes I do. This morning, good morning, Monica. She says, good morning from the treadmill. Excellent, my sister. 3 days a week, I'm in the gym with all of you, just trying to figure out how to navigate. And I posted yesterday about a sister who is 50. She'll be 52 this year. I happen to know who she is. I was in a class with her, and she's been very transparent about the fact that she's been having heart issues, had been ignoring all these signs that have been going on with her body, and ignored that her heart was doing something wonky. And so let this be the message for all of you that if something doesn't feel right, get it checked out, y'all. Get it checked out. And don't be afraid to get it checked out and pay attention to your body. And as we get older, there are things you can't do, like shrimp. Your body will start to become allergic to certain things, and you're wondering why this is happening. And so just take your time and try to figure out what's going on there. I am going to read a little bit about an organization because at 6:40 there's going to be someone coming on about this organization and something that she's dealing with. She bought a house through this program. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, my darling. She bought a house through this program and would like to talk to all of us about it. It's PHDC, has been serving Philadelphia since 1965. So there's a program called Turn the Key. You must be a first time home buyer, a person who has never owned a home, or who has not owned a home for 3 years prior to applying to turn the key. You must be complete PHDC approved, one of the home ownership counseling, one-on-one home ownership counseling before signing an agreement of sale. Your household income can be no higher than 100% of the area median income, the amount that matches up with the size of your household. AMIs is calculated by the federal government for use by housing assistance program. If you think you're eligible and ready to apply, there's a thing where you need to click. It says you will see a confirmation that your account was created and information received after you submit. Just stick with me for a minute. I'm going somewhere with this. Um, Turn the key housing counseling intake instructions. There's housing counseling is required to participate in Turn the Key housing counseling, and it's available through PHDC. Uh, I think it's the Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation. I believe that was PHDC is. And so the basics are you have a calendar of upcoming events, download the English Spanish if you have questions, the income guidelines. So if you're a family of one, your maximum annual household income is $83,000. If you're a family of two, maximum 95,550. Three, 107,000. So they're telling you, if you're eligible, these are the income guidelines. And so I'm going to have someone coming on in a few minutes to talk to you all about something that she's experiencing. And I want you all to hear what is happening here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Alexandra. Yeah. I am working hard. She says, I loved yesterday's show. I've been wanting to get back to volunteering more. You know, I agree. So I'm really trying to push the things out that we can be more interested in, more have more of a guideline for the things that we can do to volunteer, because it's going to take all of us to do what needs to be done. And sometimes I feel like a broken record because so much is going on, so much is happening. I was talking to my friend Denise yesterday. We have a day where we get in the car and we just go have fun, and so we try not to miss that day. Good morning, Nakia. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, my darling. For those of you who are just joining me, I want to make sure that you are aware I have a brand new Instagram page called A.LawfulTruth underscore LLC. I just started the page, and so it's not allowing me to broadcast live from there yet. But at some point, all my shows are going to be over there in that space, so that it's not on my personal Instagram page, if that makes sense, right? So just keep working with me. I'll post over there. I'll tag the page for some of these things that I am doing, and we'll go from there. So this sister, I Saturday I went to an event and saw her, and I just simply said, "How are you doing?" And she looked at me and she says, "Mother, I'm going through hell right now." And I asked her why. And once she began telling me what was going on, I believed it was something all of you should hear. So she'll be on shortly. Her name is Shanina. She bought a turn the key house in Philadelphia. And she's going through something that I want you all to hear, and maybe you can be helpful to her. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning. Maybe you can be helpful to her in all of what she's dealing with. Because sometimes we don't always have all the answers. I'm trying to figure out what that looks like, right? Let me cover a little bit of news while I'm waiting for her to get on the air with me. Oh, baby, it's always something, isn't it, Jesus? Um, a Democratic lawmaker introduces impeachment articles against Donald Trump. This person is seeking to impeach President Donald Trump after the administration declined to follow a Supreme Court ruling to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man who was wrongly deported to El Salvador on Monday, April 28th. Representative Michigan Rep. Shiri Thanedar announced that he was introducing articles of impeachment against Donald Trump ahead of the president's rally in the state celebrating his 100th day in office per Newsweek. I have just introduced articles of impeachment, he said. There, Thanedar wrote on X, Donald Trump is not above the law, and when he ignores the Constitution, he should be held accountable. Thanedar said he was seeking to impeach Trump after he defied the Supreme Court ruling to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return. The Trump administration has accused Abrego Garcia of having ties with the MS-13 gang, though he has no criminal convictions. Mm. So this was written by BINnews.com. An investigation is underway at a construction site in Philadelphia's University City after workers found a bone on Monday night around 10:15 p.m. Philadelphia police officers were called to the intersection of University Avenue and Civic Center Boulevard to investigate after workers digging at the site found the remains. Officers secured the scenes and the Police Southwest Detectives Division is investigating. It's not clear whether the bone belonged to a human or if other remains were found. Lord. And that was written by CBS News. Multiple people hit by a vehicle near University of Delaware, road closed, police say. Multiple people were hit by a car near the University of Delaware's campus. I think I'm trying to lose my voice here. On Tuesday afternoon, according to police, around 4:45 p.m., police in Newark, Delaware, said road closures are in effect in the area of East Main Street, starting at South Chapel Street due to a collision. The area where the police said the car crash was near several downtown businesses, including a Chipotle, a Five Guys, a dumpling restaurant, and a bar and grill. I believe someone died there, so we'll pay attention to that. Good morning, Donetta. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said his country would never yield to the United States as he declared victory in federal elections early Tuesday, following a campaign overshadowed by relentless provocations and steep trade tariffs. Let me see. So she's here. Steep trade tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, the Liberal Party leader, issued a stunning rebuke to Trump as he sent a message of unity to a divided nation, promising to represent everyone who calls Canada home. So that's happening. So even as the president is trying to roll back the tariffs, folks like China is like, kick rocks. We're going to keep going and doing what we're doing. So we are in a little bit of a thing here. Nakia said, "This is the 1 year that I'm giving back and supporting others and charities. It's helping me to stay focused and to feel positive in the craziness." I am too, Nakia. I am too. I am. Let Shanina in. Good morning, my sister. Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the things you'll learn from me is if you've got a situation going on, one of us gonna figure out a way to help, right? So before you came on, now there you go. You look nice and bright. The I read the Turn the Key program before you came on the air, so people would understand what it was about. Tell folks how you got involved in Turn the Key program, how you got your house, and what is now happening there. Can you hear me, Shanina? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So tell us a little bit
Okay.
about your turn the key experience and what's happening now with the home that you bought.
Okay, yes, thank you. So I purchased my home with Turnkey. So with Turnkey, there is a 75,000 uh buy down, mortgage buy down. So it sounds very appealing and it's very, very helpful, especially to those of us who have limited resources financially and who have had difficulty getting a home through the job market, which I have had for, the past 2 years prior. So with Turnkey, I was like immediately approved for the mortgage. Um, I was immediately moved into the home. It is new construction. Everything is brand new in the home. It is a up and coming neighborhood. And it's beautiful with the exception of the issues that I've been having surrounding parking. These homes come with no parking.
Okay. So you got there when? When did you move in?
I moved in July of last year.
Of 2024. And what has been the issue with parking for you with the neighbors that live on that street where you are?
So the issue with parking has been there's been constant harassment. And it's not just me. I come here speaking on behalf of all of my neighbors who have entered through Turnkey program and who are unfortunately being targeted because this area has been regentified, and some people are not happy with that. People are resistant to change. However, harassment is illegal. It's against the law.
So when you say harassment, what is happening with you in terms of your parking? So these are the people that actually lived on the street before you got there.
Yes.
Was Turn the Key, did the Turn the Key program go into the community and have a community meeting and say, we're building some new construction, we're putting in first time homeowners, how can we support you here? What do we need to do? Or did you just move in the house?
So I did ask questions about that, and it was my understanding that the previous homeowners just received a letter in the mail just stating that new construction will be built. However, I do know that there are ways in which they can petition against that. So had they, went through that process, then I feel like they probably would have more leverage.
Hmm. Right. So tell me now, give me an example of what's happening with you in your brand new home. You haven't even been there for a year. Because when I
Yeah.
talked to you on Saturday, you said you want to leave.
Oh my God. It's a disaster. I should have peace in my home. Within my first 2 weeks of moving here, I've had to file a police report because I've had one individual literally come up to me. It seemed like she was going to fight me about parking on her curb. So with our sidewalks, again, I told you like these sidewalks are not made for parking, or these streets rather. People have pots parked up along the sidewalks. They have cones, everything they can to try to preserve their space. parking space.
Hmm. That's
She
not
approached.
legal either. I just need to let you know.
That is illegal.
Hmm.
But people don't care. So the first week I've had someone come up to me, approach me about it. I simply apologized. I didn't mean to run over her pot, or I didn't mean to be parked on her curve. Since then, I've had people ring my doorbell 12 o'clock at night, asking me to move my car from off of my side of the curve. Um, I've had someone just as early as last week, mind you, we're about to go into a year, approach, well, ring my doorbell. And mind you, all of us on this block have recorded cameras. We all have ring cameras. So everyone knows that they're being recorded when they're doing these things. This man comes up to me, rings my doorbell with a baby on his back and a dog. It looks like he's going for a walk, but he asked me, "Hey, is that your car?" I'm like, "Yes." He said, "Well, I work alongside LNI, PHI,
I
no,
saw that
LNI
video. I saw that
Land."
video and I saw the people egging him on to ring your doorbell and harass you. I saw all of that.
And that's what goes on constantly. And unfortunately, I'm at the end. So there's like, I'm surrounded by that. But I just don't understand, why is it okay for, even if it's not just them, even if they're bringing different people into the situation, why is it okay for them to keep harassing me? Why is it okay for them to keep ringing my doorbell, asking me to move my car? Why is it
But if you live on the street and you have a car, at the very least, you can park somewhere on the street. Why is this an issue for them?
I think it's a territorial thing.
Yeah, but they own the house, they don't own the street.
The police have come and they have put in, I guess, orders, just regulations stating that you can't have cones and pots.
Hmm.
Sometimes they come around, and maybe distribute tickets, but it, nothing happens, nothing changes.
So you're at the point now where you don't feel safe in your home. Why is that?
I don't feel safe in my home. I've had someone try to break into my back door. um, I've seen my neighbor's cards get vandalized, and that is also on camera, surrounding a parking space that people thought that they owned. Um, I I've had neighbors like uh, try to approach me and be very extremely confrontational, to the point where I tried to file 2 stay away orders. I've filed 4 to 5 police reports. I'm always at the 22nd district meetings, just trying to get insight on what we can do.
People are asking, what part of the city is this?
Brewery Town.
Brewery Town. Brewery Town. So is it a conglomerate of the neighbors themselves? Did they tell you where they think you should park? Because this is the part that I've always asked. Did they tell you where they think you should park?
Oh
If they
yeah,
don't think you should park on
absolutely.
your street,
Absolutely. Um, Coming into this neighborhood, I said, okay, they're kind of aggressive, so I'm just going to try to go with their program. You should park on your curb. I've been living here for 30 years, and people that live on that side of the street park on that side. Okay, but this was a lot. This whole area was a lot
yes,
30 years ago. So
right.
where did you expect me to park? So when I park in the lot, or I park on my side, it's still an issue.
That's so interesting. So, what solution have you had so far to? And Marguerite is asking, have any of her elected officials gotten involved? Tell them about that part.
My elected officials, I can't say that they can assist um, to to the rate that I want them to. I want intervention where it's peaceful on this block surrounding
Right.
park and nobody's harassing me. That has not happened. Um, I have had patrols come around. Um, I've also had people tell me that I need to reach out to PHDC Land Bank. I've done that to no avail.
What did
Uh,
they say?
um, Essentially, everyone is rerouting me. I'm being rerouted to the property management company who sold me the home. I'm being rerouted to turnkey program managers. I'm being rerouted to the police. Um, I'm being rerouted to integrated safety services. Nobody is able to assist. And I was also told that we needed a block captain in order for some intervention to happen. So myself and my colleague have petitioned to become the block captain, and I'm the chair. But there's no help.
So this is not a PPA thing, Joanne, because she says so. Is the PPA you said the Philadelphia? Oh, you're talking about Philadelphia Parking Authority. I don't know. If PPA comes and they have the cones, because I heard the cops saying it's illegal to put your cones and stuff out there. What happens as a direct result when they move the cones, or do they not move the cones?
I'm not sure if they move the cones. The cones are always there. So maybe they move the cones and then they replace them. Um, but PPA does never comes down this block.
Yes. So Alexandra says, okay, I think I understand the issue. The gentrification in the area has been very disrespectful to the longtime residents, which is why I asked. They turned the key, have a conversation. They only sent a letter?
This is what I've been told because I did my research. I wanted to know, why are people so hostile? We're
Right.
new homeowners. Like, they
Yes.
should be happy. We are,
Mm.
elevating the neighborhood. It's going to
Right.
be clean. It's You're going to have people who are actually going to take care of their properties, but
Right.
a lot comes with it.
The man that came to the ring camera, I only saw one video because I had a friend that died suddenly. So I was, a man that came to the camera was a white man with a baby on his back. Have you been having issues with your black residents too?
Yes, it's mainly black residents, but they sent him to come to my door.
And he lied and said he was a part of LNI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because none of those things, he was none of those things that he
I
said he
called
was.
PHDC. He's not a part of PHDC. I haven't talked to LNI. I did report it. And PHS, Philadelphia Horticultural Society. Okay, I'm a member too.
Right. Fee asked this question: is there residential parking permits? Maybe that would help. Is there residential parking permits?
There's not.
Okay. Andrea says it doesn't sound like it's only about parking. Are the neighbors mad at you, turnkey folks being there?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know that initially they knew we were homeowners. I've had
Mhm.
someone call my home a PHA home.
And so when you told them you were a homeowner, what happened?
I think that they kind of thought a little bit differently because, mind you, with turnkey there is a 30-year mortgage. So with that being said, if you're older, you're not really a good candidate for this. So most of
Okay.
us are younger, so we
Mm,
appear younger. We're young professionals. We have people that essentially work for the city
mhm.
or have priority over this program. So we're all working individuals. We just want stability.
Do you think there can be if there was a meeting that was held between the longtime residents and the newer residents that are there? Has anyone tried to do that?
Yes, we did. We hosted a meet and greet last September. Well, yeah, September, and everything seemed okay. Everybody was on board, but shortly after that, there was still chaos surrounding parking. There were confrontations, aggressiveness, and that's when all of the most police reports came out. Not just with me, other
Right,
residents as well. You have people
right,
putting notes on people's car. Please don't park on my curb. Like, it's just
right,
so much.
right. Sandra says, but it doesn't matter if they're homeowners or not. They reside in their home and deserve respect. So I'm wondering, have you reached out to who was your city council person,
Jeffrey Young,
and what has he said?
his office said that I could sell my house and yeah, I guess take the penalty. Serious.
His office told you to sell your house and take a penalty because how long do you have to live in the house before you can actually move from there as a direct result of being a part of Turn the Key program?
The D restrictions require us to be here for 10 years. The primary residence. So I couldn't even rent the house out if I wanted to.
That's what I'm wondering, Linnea. I'm wondering what kind of legal recourse she has. And I was hoping that Turn the Key from PhDC would look at this and say, we've got to do something to help these residents. They're being terrorized in their home owned. Marguerite says it appears they think your property is Section 8 property. But even if it was, Marguerite, that's their home. That's what they're homeowners. They bought the house. They've got 30-year mortgages. But even if they were Section 8 residents, why would you treat people like that? That makes no sense to me. Someone says, I have a feeling that I and my family members may know some of these law. Alexandra, can you see can you see for me what can happen here? She said that was Darius Clark, former district. I'm not sure why no one's helping her, but I'm bringing attention to this on her behalf to see if we can get some help for her because this is
Yes.
untenable. It absolutely is. If anyone has any recourse, any solutions, I'm also going to call my city council member and see what we can do. And I'm going to call Darisha Parker to see if she can help because who is your state rep?
Keith Harris, and like I said, they've been patrolling the area.
So Keith Harris, your state rep, has been patrolling the area.
Yes.
And what have they found? Anything?
I can't say if they found anything or if they tried to, or if they actually resolved anything. Everything is
Yeah.
still the same.
So Linnea said, you reach out to an attorney and ask them. My thing is, they don't own the street. They don't own the street. Have you reached out to an attorney?
I haven't. I was told to reach out to a property manager or a
No,
property attorney.
no. At this point, you need an attorney to help
Okay.
you. And I really do think Marguerite says, can State Rep Parker help? I'm going to reach out to her and see what she can do, if she can do anything. Because sometimes it's just think, this is in Brewery Town, Sandra. It's in Brewery Town. So people are trying to figure out how to help you now.
Thank you.
Um, Alexandra says, if you don't mind giving her an intersection name, she's willing to help. What's the intersection?
Um, 28th and Jefferson.
28th and Jefferson. Okay. So, what I'm going to do, this is my commitment to you. As these folks reach out and tell me what you can do to help, I'm also going to see if I can find an attorney for you because that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
I get it that people are frustrated that folks are moving in, but guess what? They don't own the street. You have tried everything to work with them, and right now it's complete harassment. And ringing your doorbell at midnight is literally harassment. Literally harassment. So something else is going on there. We have to kind of figure out what we're doing. Joanne says they keep building new homes for profit all over the city and never address parking. That should be addressed before construction. I agree.
Definitely.
I agree. I absolutely agree, Joanne. I absolutely. Linnea says also go to the mayor's office to see if they can give you. Did you go to the mayor's office and ask?
I've filed several reports to the mayor's office, but I need to physically go there. Is
Yes,
that what
go in
you're
there.
saying?
I think you should go in there. Yes, yes. Okay, all right. Um, Alexandra said, okay, she's coming. She's going to come, and so she knows some of those people, so she's going to see if she can try and help you. Okay,
Okay. So the intersection, I'm sorry, is Marston and Master.
Marston and Master, she says.
If
Okay,
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, my sister. We're going to see how
Thank
we can
you.
help you, and I'm going to reach out to state rep and my own council member to see what can be done to help you. Okay.
Thank you, Mama Andre. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome, sweetie pie. You're so
God bless you.
welcome. Oh yeah, and she saved all the camera videos. I saw them. See you soon, sweetie pie. Bye bye. Bye bye. It's so difficult sometimes when people are going through stuff like this to try and navigate. Because she can't sleep. She has a young daughter. She can't sleep. The people are terrorizing her all day, all night. There's a lot right next to her home. She parks in the lot. She called PHA, I think owns the lot. PHA told her she can park there until they're ready to do construction. They're fighting with her about parking in the lot because that's not her that her like what these people something else is going on here, so we're going to have to figure it out. Alexandra says my brother knows them most likely. Marvel, give her my number, please. I will do. All right, let me let Dr. Stevens Spencer in. Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I
I
can hear
can.
you.
Can you hear me?
I can. thank you
Wonderful. Let me.
thank you so much for joining me
Come on.
this morning.
Thank
I
you for
I
having me.
first I first heard about you through Antoine Johnson, and I was, I was intrigued. Dr. Stephen Spencer has more than 20 years of experience as a physician with over 15 years as a physician executive. He holds an MD from Brown University, an MPH from Harvard, and an MBA from Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Spencer is currently the chief medical officer for a large health insurer in New Jersey. He is married with two children. Today, he and I are going to talk about the inequalities in healthcare, rural versus urban areas. You have a book called Purple Blood: The Divide Between Rural and Urban Healthcare. Tell us a little bit. Thank you and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
you know, Dr. Spencer, we all know that there are health disparities in these United States of America. Tell us about Purple Blood. Why did you write it, and what's the premise of the book?
So I'll take it back a little bit and start from the beginning. So I'm in
Hmm.
Philadelphia, native, born and raised. I claim South Philadelphia, although I was technically born in North
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Went to school at Girard College, and I'm one of those unique people. I used to hate the term unicorn. I had a colleague of mine who called me a unicorn because I had all these degrees and I was black and the like. And I said, oh, I don't like that term. There are lots of professional black people. But when I started to think about it through the lens of my experience and where I ended up, I was like, I actually started to embrace that term. I was a person who grew up in poverty. I was a person who was on welfare, and I was a person who also benefited from Medicaid. So I had a unique perspective about what that meant and what it can mean in order to further people's lives. And so one of the reasons I went into healthcare and actually eventually healthcare administration is because I wanted to affect change and deal with healthcare disparities based on what I experienced as a child. And so I went through this journey and this process, but my thinking was always about the underserved from an urban perspective. So again, I grew up in the city of Philadelphia. I spent time in South Philadelphia and North Philadelphia. I did my residency at Temple University Hospital in North Philadelphia, so the epicenter of the underserved and
Hmm.
health disparities. And so
Your sound is going in and out, Dr. Spencer. I'm not sure if it's your earbuds.
potentially the immense disparities that were there. I saw
Yeah, your sound,
pathology.
Dr. Spencer, is going in and out. Um, i-
Okay, let me switch to the computer. That may be
okay,
actually a little bit better.
okay.
Let's see if I can do that. Give me
Because I
one
don't want them to
second.
miss not one bit of this. Okay. All right. Uh, hold on, y'all. We're waiting for him to reset up his thing because I do want you all to hear what he is saying. Can you hear me, doctor?
I can hear you.
Oh, that's much better.
Okay. I just need to make sure I can stay on the recording.
Yes.
Uh, and let me take out my
Right.
earbuds.
Much better.
Much better.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I was saying, so I was very interested in health disparities from a young
Yes.
child. Went through residency at Temple University in internal medicine and saw health disparities there,
Mhm.
and was
Mhm.
very disheartened by a couple of things that I saw. One was the resources that were available to folks to actually affect their healthcare was not as adequate as it should have been.
Okay.
And this meant that we had a lot of folks, one, who were coming in with really horrible pathology, people who could have had colon cancer or breast cancer screening done early and had interventions were coming in with very advanced stages of those
Wow.
pathologies with very advanced malignancies that had spread already where there was not really much treatment that could be done. Or patients that came in with congestive heart failure, which there are medications that treat that, and of course, you can be in the hospital for intensive treatment. But a lot of the pathology and the outcomes that come from that are actually from things that are in the environment. So, for instance, one of the things I mentioned in my book is we would spend, $100,000 tuning someone up with congestive heart failure, getting them to a point where they were no longer short of breath, they didn't have swelling in their legs, they were walking on their own, and they would come back a couple of days later because they had eaten the wrong food at a Chinese store with high sodium. And so that really made me think about health disparities in a larger, broader context, but it was still very urban. It was still thinking about it from my perspective and from the perspective that I knew about. So when I got the opportunity to go down to North Carolina, first of all, it was crazy for me. One of the interesting things I say in my book is that I was always obsessed with North Carolina, but never thought I would actually live there. And I certainly never thought I would live in a rural environment.
Right.
And I was afraid. I was definitely petrified. One, because I had never been a chief medical officer, but two, because I was afraid of the cultural differences that I would run into. All
Right.
know the stereotypes of the South and
Mm.
what things I was thinking about in my head and would I be accepted and all of these thoughts. And that actually wasn't the thing that blew my mind. What actually blew my mind were a couple things. One, when I went to the hospital and I saw the people who were taking advantage of the healthcare that was being provided at this rural hospital, they looked like the people in Philadelphia. It looked much more like the people in Philadelphia than I thought it would. It was a
Right.
lot of black and brown people, high level of underserved folks, high level of underinsurance and Medicaid. In fact, Medicaid was our predominant insurance.
Mm.
And the other piece that I was taken aback by is I was seeing the same things that I was seeing at Temple. So pathology that had progressed beyond treatment, folks who did not access healthcare, a little bit different in Philadelphia because in Philadelphia was, health literacy and like there was not a geographic dislocation of healthcare. Some people have described this as an urban structuralism. So healthcare is really about having things densely packed. So you have 5 hospitals in the city of Philadelphia. You have hundreds of healthcare clinics. You have lots of specialists, but they have to have a certain density in order to coalesce in those areas. In rural healthcare, it's really a geographic problem. So you may have an issue that requires an infectious disease specialist, but the closest one is 2 to 3 hours away. And so that sets up additional barriers that you'll see there. And one of the other things as I started to really delve into this world of rural healthcare is not only did I realize that these people look like the people I had served in Philadelphia, but also a lot of the healthcare disparities that we talk about nationwide. So one of the big ones that we talk about are maternal and infant mortality, which, as we
Yes.
know, we rival third world countries. In the
Mm-hmm.
United States, we are not equivalent to any first world country in terms of our rates. So we have lots of women dying in childbirth. We have lots of babies dying in childbirth. And a lot of that is actually driven not only from racial disparities that we have heard about, so African American women are much more likely to have those outcomes, but they're actually also driven by rural disparities. So you layer the racial disparities on top of the rural disparities, and it really causes this huge healthcare inequity in these areas. And so that's really where the impetus came from. As I was looking around at my surroundings while I was down there, and really thinking through not only outlining the differences that I saw in the provision of healthcare, but also thinking through what are the solutions for those differences.
I have to ask you this because we keep talking about these disparities. Why is it that black and brown people are treated so differently? And it doesn't matter, because hear me when I tell you, it doesn't matter how pedigreed you are, doesn't matter how much money you have made, it doesn't matter how well dressed. I do believe this, that if you're well dressed, when you walk into a hospital, they treat you a little differently. I've experienced that. And got cussed as I was being called back. And when I asked the nurse, she says, because you presented so nicely, you came in, you had on a suit, blah, 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 blah. What is it about us that folks, and yet they make their most money off of our disparities, off of us, coming into them when we're at the end stage of this or the end stage of that? Why are doctors not telling us? I'm sorry, I'm asking you about 5 questions at one time, but why are doctors not telling us, listen, this is your issue. I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll walk you through the process. What's the issue?
So that's multifold. So one of the things that I just recently read, or actually it was a meme I think on Instagram, and I
Mm-hmm.
read it saw it about a week ago, and it said, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically it said that this person's grandmother would not go to the hospital, and then when asked why she wouldn't go to the hospital, she said, "Because I don't have my hair done, and I know they're going to treat me differently."
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a lot of truth to that. I actually looked at it a few times and said, "Oh, that's actually very profound." So what we have realized, and I think some of the more progressive institutions have realized this, is that there is an unconscious bias that occurs with Black and Brown patients. And I speak to this in my book. I have a section on diversity. And a lot of folks have really thought about that issue in terms of overt racism. And they think, I don't go into a room and think, oh, it's a Black patient, so I'm going to give them a totally different treatment
Right.
plan or guideline. In fact, a lot of this is very prescriptive, so everyone is kind of getting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what you see at the margins are those unconscious biases that come in. And actually, I'm going to say something really, really provocative. It actually it actually happens even with African American physicians. I will say it happens less. So if you look at statistics and you look at studies, it does
Yes.
happen less and we do see better outcomes if you do have African American physicians or
Mm-hmm.
physicians of color who are treating patients of color. But there is still some bias that occurs there. And so you actually have to work against it. And one of the things I point out in my book is that in urban environments where I've been, they talk about it openly. They recognize it as a problem. Their solutions aren't necessarily always the greatest. Sometimes I think it's looked at as a nice thing to do as opposed to a life saving thing to do, as well as actually
Wait, they look at
financially
it as a nice thing to do to treat
correct.
patient properly?
Correct. So it's we are going to address diversity and inclusion because it is we are nice people and we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. But it
Right.
has to be taken in the next step where we recognize that that actually directly affects health outcomes. And so the urban institutions are a step ahead, but I would say in my rural experience, it was even worse because there was no discussion of diversity. It was almost like a taboo thing to talk about. One of the examples I give in my book is actually around my experience in an urban institution where we really stressed that we needed to make sure we were speaking the proper language for folks who were coming in the hospital. And so this is very common in Philadelphia. We have a large Spanish speaking population. We always have translators who come in. But the other thing we realize is having people who work there who speak that language is also very welcoming. And so I introduced that as a potential solution to one of the problems we were having with this large number of Spanish speaking
Mm-hmm.
population that was coming in, both from a cultural respect, but also because it would affect their health outcomes, as well as this was also a new population of patients that was coming to the hospital that could also be potential revenue. So from all aspects, it made sense. It was like I was speaking a foreign language actually, because they couldn't get around the idea of yes, we provide translators, but we should take it a step further to make sure people feel culturally heard and we're actually meeting their needs from both the specific health outcomes perspective as
Mm-hmm.
well as from the perspective of their primary language. So I think it's diversity is not truly understood in the way that we're practicing it in the hospital does not always lead to the outcomes we want because we're not having the right conversations.
And even when we have the right conversations, there is this feeling of, and I'll talk to you offline about this because I've addressed doctors in the theater setting over something that happened. Even when we have the right conversations, there's a feeling of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I went to medical school. I know what I'm talking about. These folks are not conforming to what we're telling them. They don't believe us. And then so we just don't offer them the services that we would offer other people because they're just not going to take advantage of it. Stop me when I'm wrong.
So yes, and that also comes to the cultural sensitivity as well, because how are you saying that to the person so that you're having an open dialogue? And I think a lot of doctors, if you have this unconscious bias and you're already thinking that what response you're going to get, then you're not presenting it in a way where people are going to now be receptive, or you're not thinking through the history of how um, people of color have seen doctors or the healthcare
Mhm.
system in general. And so I think when you come to it with that perspective and understand that the way it's being received may be a little bit different because of your experiences and your history,
Mhm.
then I think you'll get to a better place. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They think if that's the difference between equality and equity, which I will say I actually just learned a few years ago. It just hit me. But,
Mhm.
equality is really saying, I'm going to say this to everyone the exact same way and expect the same outcome for
Right.
everyone. Equity is saying, I recognize that I may have to say it differently, and I may also have to offer additional supports to this
Mhm.
person because of their experience to get them to the same place. And it's important that I do that, right? It's
Mhm.
important that I offer that additional support. It's not because I'm being nice, it's because it's the right thing to do, and it's my job to make sure we're getting to that outcome.
Yeah. So, how do we bridge this divide? Because until we get there, if we get there, people are dying. People are dying
Correct.
at alarming rates. I spoke to two women yesterday about Cocoa Life, and they're using doulas now. Black women
Mhm.
in particular are leaving hospitals and going to doulas or asking doulas to be in the hospitals with them because so that they can be heard and listened to try and save their lives. We always have to come up with the solutions for our own health care.
Correct. So
And
I think
so,
that's great. I think the doulas are amazing and taking it back to the maternal health piece.
mhm,
So everybody is sort of getting, specifically on that issue, or sort of getting on the same page around doulas.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
again, I think what is now being recognized, and again, not always executed, but being
mhm,
recognized is that we are not having the right conversations, and people
mhm,
don't necessarily feel comfortable having certain conversations with their healthcare providers. And so
mhm,
we need to bring other people into those spaces and into the room who aren't necessarily MDs, but
mhm,
have a different perspective and can assist in making sure those conversations are had and that those
mhm,
voices are being heard.
mhm,
Oftentimes, you'll hear stories specifically about maternal health where people are saying things and putting out an alert and alarm, but no one is listening to them. And again, not because they consciously don't want to help them. It's
mhm,
because they've been conditioned to, follow this guideline, follow this algorithm, and they have a hard time with what I call nonlinear workflows, where it veers off a
mhm,
little bit and someone says something you're not expecting, and then you have to sort of bounce back. So we're not very good at that. People like or programs that involve doulas can help bridge that gap and bridge that space so that you have someone who has knowledge about childbirth and healthcare in general and also are very good at translating what the patient is saying to the healthcare provider. In an ideal world, you wouldn't need that intermediary person, but
mhm,
you do. And
mhm.
doulas have actually been shown to improve outcomes. So actually, that's a very good space. And now you're starting to see healthcare systems as well as health plans start to recognize them and start to pay for their services.
Because we force them. We force them by pulling ourselves out of the hospitals. We force them by saying we're not coming here to have our babies. And once they realized they were losing money from the insurance companies because we were having our babies elsewhere, then they started to find a solution to that. So
Correct.
here is my, and I love this. I need you, before we get off here, I need to tell people how to find the book Purple Blood. It is important. But here's the other thing that I want to talk to you about. So I was at the hospital last year with a family member who was very sick. And while there, I heard the doctors and the nurses talking about this Ozempic. And that they
Mhm.
had people coming in, vomiting up their feces, that their intestines were dying, that kind of thing, and that they would never give their family members, would never encourage their family members to take this thing. So I'm sitting there, and of course I'd been there for seven some days. And so I started having conversations. And the doctors kind of liked me. So they were showing me certain things. And I said, well, if you know this is an issue, why is it being pushed in doctors' offices? One doctor who was Chinese said to me, honestly, a lot of the times doctors are given a certain amount of compensation if they push certain pharmaceutical products. And so she says, we have to tell our family members on the other side of it, this is not good because we see. What the hell? Doctors did. No, no, no,
Wow.
no. What, Dr. Spencer? No, seriously though.
So we could have we could have hours of discussions just on Ozempic, and it's the class of medications called GLP-1 agonists. So there are about five or six of them that are out there. Some they were originally designed for folks with diabetes, but now have of course become weight loss medications.
Hmm.
They do come with lots of side effects. The one of the interesting side effects, which is actually how it works, is that it also makes you not crave food or enjoy food, which is also interesting to me because that's actually one of the pleasures of life, but that's an aside. So one of the things I think we don't do well as a country is we don't look at those alternative ways of getting to the same outcome. We want immediate
I
gratification.
officially love you. I
Yes.
do,
we
because you get it. You get it, Dr.
Yeah,
Spencer.
we want immediate gratification, and all of those things come with side effects. So one of the things that worries me, and is not talked about those medications, and they work. People lose weight, people's diabetic
Hmm.
sugars get better. They do work. But one of the things that worries me is, especially from a weight loss perspective, exercise. Look on any study and you compare exercise to anything else, it improves longevity, quality of life, everything. So now I'm on a medication. I lose weight, great. That does decrease my risk of having bad health outcomes as
Hmm.
well. But you know what would be better if you lost the weight with exercise, because
Hmm.
that is like twofold benefit, much more of a benefit than actually just doing it with the medication. So I think we have to tell the whole story. And the other thing I'll throw in there is the medication costs thousands upon thousands of dollars a month, but you can get a gym membership and a trainer for a fraction of that cost. And if you could get to the same outcome, wouldn't that be better for everybody in society? But we don't have those conversations because we built our healthcare system
Hmm.
around medications and pharmaceuticals
Hmm.
and the like. So
And
great
I've been told.
observation. I would love to have further conversations about GLP-1s because they're really fascinating.
Then I have to have you back on, because I think once they recognize what was happening with the GLPs, and movie stars started taking it to lose weight, who didn't have diabetes, which is
Hmm.
now causing them issues on the other side, tanking their blood sugars. I'm talking to friends who say that they're vomiting, they're nauseous all the time. They're coming down, they're slim, but you can tell who is on them because they also lose their muscle mass,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And we
Yep.
need our muscle
Especially
mass.
as you get older, that's really
Thank
important.
you. Thank
Yes.
you, Dr. Spencer.
Yes.
Thank you. Because as you get older and you lose that muscle mass, you're actually putting yourself in danger. All right.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I should have gone to medical school. I swear I should have.
You sound like it.
But Dr. Spencer, I'm telling you, I did the 7 years, the 8 years, but I ask a ton of questions. I ask a ton of questions. And so I don't knock anyone who's using these products, but what I say to them is know the long-term side effects of them
Correct.
and the damages that they can cause. So if you're going to take the medication, start exercising, start to build up your muscle mass. You can see just from looking in the faces, on their arms, etc., that the medicine is working, but they're losing muscle mass. And that's a dangerous thing to do, specifically with women
Yeah, and
as
one
they
of the
age.
things I'll say, just quickly related to health disparities, is that I always say that the doctor is the consultant. Your doctor is not the all-knowing king. They are your consultant. They are a person who is supposed to talk to you about the options,
Yes.
and then together you are supposed to come up with a healthcare plan that works for you and makes the
Yes.
most sense. And
Yes.
so when your doctor says, "This is what I think you should do," you are supposed to then say, okay, doctor, let me do my own research. Let me think about it. Let me talk to my family. And then I come back to you and we'll decide on what we're going to do.
Hmm.
And so we need to encourage more people to do that, not in an adversarial way
Right.
because you want a great relationship, but
Right.
in a way where you're working collaboratively together. And we have to make sure we bring up the health literacy of everybody so they're able to
Yes.
have those intelligent, thoughtful conversations with their doctor.
And juxtapose that with the fact that we need to have conversations within our community that tells people we actually have the wherewithal to say. We can actually say to our doctor, I don't want to do that, and this is why.
Correct. Correct.
We
Exactly.
often believe, especially the older folks, that if the doctor says it, it must be true.
Right.
And we're losing
And
our.
and we don't know why we're doing certain things. We're on 10
just taking it.
medications, but we have no idea why we're on those 10
Yes,
medications.
yes. I was sitting at lunch a few weeks ago, and two white women, older white women, said, "I'm on all this medication. I've got Medicare and Medicaid, and I don't know why I'm on all these medications." So we have to ask questions. I think it's women in particular, and black folks. You know, women in general, black folks in particular, about not using our voices to ask the questions. I have fired doctors. I've just, thank you for the part you played in my journey, but I don't agree on this. I've had a doctor say, I need you to get on Ozempic because you gained 10 pounds. And I said, well, did you look at my A1C? It's still 5.2. What you talking about?
All right.
Right? So you have to, and again, just kept asking a bunch of questions. So what are your thoughts? What happens? And she says, well, I have a couple of doctor friends who got on it when they got off Ozempic, when they tried to get off, the cravings came back tenfold. They regained the weight and then some, all the things they don't get. But I asked the question because I asked the question, she had to answer them. And when she finished answering them, I said, well, I thank you for the part. Thank you so much. I still see her because she's a wonderful sister.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was grateful that she was telling me the truth because I
Right.
already knew the answers.
Right.
And so, with diet and exercise, doing what other people are doing with medication, I do believe, though, that emotionally, that if we can get people's emotional state of mind correct,
Mm.
because
It, it all, yes, it's the brain.
the brain directs what we do and how we do
Hmm.
it, and the
Correct.
things that we accept.
Correct.
I
No,
need
I
to sit down
totally
and talk
agree.
to you
Totally
privately,
agree.
Dr. Spencer, because this is a good conversation. Tell people how they can find the book.
So the book is available on Amazon, and that's pretty much the easiest way. It's on
Hmm.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's on my publisher's website, Dorrance Publishing, but Amazon is really the best way. If you order
Okay,
it on Amazon, it's going to come the next day. It's
okay,
really the
and it's
easiest and
called
simplest way.
Purple Blood.
And it's called Purple Blood. And again, it really delves into all of the conversation we're having today. Really focused on healthcare disparities, both in urban and rural settings, and thinking through what are the ways in which we can improve those.
Yeah. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure
Antoine
talking to you as well.
always lands good ones for me. He was like, "You gotta talk to this guy," and
Great guy.
I believe listening to you that you are a doctor that looks at holistic and if they have to take medication.
Correct.
I don't know how you navigate through the medical field because I've had doctors who quit between the insurance and being forced to put forced medications on people. You seem to be walking the line of making sure that folks are okay while you were there. And so for that, I applaud you. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah. And again, it's my unique experience. And I've been in every facet of healthcare. So I come at it from a lot of experience, and that helps me to see the entire picture.
Dr. Stephen Spencer, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
Mornings
you.
with Mova.
Thank you
I'd
for
like to
having
have
me.
some more conversation with you, especially about the GLPs,
Yes,
GL1Ps.
definitely.
I'll have you back on to talk about that, please, so that people
Thank
can be
you.
more informed about it, okay?
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Have
so
a good
much.
day.
All right. Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye. Ask says losing muscle mass and appetite is a big problem. Many individuals do not look healthy and don't enjoy food. Lack of appetite for food will also affect passion for life. Laverne says yes, therapy and or coaching should come with the weight loss journey. Yeah, a lot of the times there are people who say they struggle. Oprah Winfrey was one. Was like she's like, I struggle. I want to eat. I see the food. I want to eat it. And so when Ozempic and the other class of medications came out and they were able to lose weight, lose it quickly, and not have to worry about. I mean, you drop the weight like nobody's business. But then I also have friends who are on it that are not dropping the weight. They'll drop 10 pounds and then nothing happens. So it works for most, it doesn't work for all. I am asking you, and after being at the hospital with a relative last year and listening to the doctors, I mean, they were openly having the conversation in plain view of anyone who was listening. Look at here. We would not give this to they had like several patients coming that day who was vomiting up their feces because their intestines were dying from lack of movement, which is what the drug is, telling them to do. And so I started to ask the questions because, I'm nosy. And I was like, "Da, da, 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 da," and they were like, yeah, don't, do not. And when I told them about my own experience, they looked at me and said, boy, we don't want to mess with you because a lot of people take the medication and say, all right, this is the way to drop my A1C. But I am a living example of being able to drop your A1C without being on any medication at all. You see me in the gym cussing my trainer out. And he's right. Those medications cost thousands of dollars. To get a personal trainer is $600 a month, maybe seven. So what's the difference, right? And the feeling that when you're using your muscles, when you're building muscles, your body continues to burn fat even while you're sleeping. I am just grateful for Dr. Spencer because not only was he thoughtful in the way he wrote his book, he was incredibly honest in the conversations that he was having. And oftentimes people shuck and go, all right, I don't know if I should say this. He did none of that. I'd like to have more of a conversation with him, because, and look, when your doctors are offering you Ozempic, etc., it's because your A1C is 12 and 13 and 11, and I get it because it's impacting your whole body, your kidneys, your liver, etc. But you have to have the conversation with yourself about this. What am I putting in my mouth that's going to cause me damage and harm? Is it something that I want? I love plantain chips. I came home from the pen relays. I ate a whole thing of plantain chips, and my eyes started getting glassy. I immediately took it and I said to my husband, "You can have it. I'm not eating any more of this because I understand that this raises my blood sugar, and I don't need to have it. I love it, but it's not something that I need to have." Had to give up white rice. It's literally up here. Your brain has to coincide with what you're doing with your body. If your brain is telling you, yeah, I can drink my Pepsi all the time, or I can eat a whole cake, or I can, you get to decide, y'all. You get to decide what that looks like. And if you need encouragement, then we can form a group of people together to help one another, to help one another. There has to be another way. The long term effects of these medications, and there are people who have taken them and have had to get off of them because they were harming you. There was more harm than good. We have, remember, one body, two kidneys, one liver, one heart, two lungs, 40 feet of intestines. If they have to keep resectioning your intestine and cutting out pieces of it because it keeps dying, that continues to have an issue for you over long term. So lose the weight, but get in the gym. As you are losing the weight, get in the gym and start to build muscle. This is not just about cute. I keep telling you all, the real flex is your health. As my girl Danielle wrote yesterday that I put on my Facebook page, the real flex is being healthy. You cannot buy your health. You just cannot. You cannot. And so while I'm not discouraging you from doing what you need to do to lose your weight, I'm telling you, I'm encouraging you to educate yourself on how long you can be on these things. What does that look like for you? How are you losing muscle mass? What does that mean? When we get older as women and our muscle mass starts to dwindle, it's easier for us to get a heart attack. It's easier for us to get sick. I ask you all the time, do your research. You get 45, from 45 on is downhill. So we look cute in our clothes, but what does that mean for our body over long term? It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Listen, this episode of Mornings with Mom was officially over. Tomorrow is the Love It segment. We did not have it last week. And on Friday, we'll have the CEO of PHA for another episode of, what's happening in that organization and how you can get involved and how PHA can support you. Okay. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye bye. Woohoo! Bye, darling. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.